Once you narrow that focus, what happens is the speed and the velocity which you pick up because you're so clear on who your audience is and what your offering is, it just works out. Your dance card still gets filled. You get the reputation for being these guys, not those guys, right?
Strong companies, lasting partnerships, powerful events. Welcome to the Experience Builders Podcast.
Chris, this is the first time I'm seeing you in the new year. I know we probably have an episode already out from the new year, but it's pre-recorded. So what's been going on with you in 2024,
do I look younger?
man?
Do I look younger, more rested, smarter, anything?
You are turning back the clock, man.
Throw me a bone here, Khalil.
How's your new year starting?
It's great. It's first of all, I had a wonderfully relaxing and lots of time to reflect the last couple of weeks of 2023. So that was great. Lots of family time. The year for us has started with an absolute shotgun blast. As always, and particularly out in Las Vegas, we are right on January 2nd. We were knee deep in the move-in of this Consumer Electronics Show, largest show in North America all year. We roll right into a big private event. We're moving right into the SHOTS, the Sports Hunting and Outdoor Trade Show after that. So we're on the right. PGA show here, World of Concrete, Surfaces show. We literally have the shows and projects are teed up like waves on the North Shore of Oahu right through May for us. So, and it's a great looking lineup in the first two quarters. So really happy about it. And I know everybody, most people in our industry, all of our colleagues and friends are saying the same. So,
well, that's great. Great to start the year off with a little bit of a bang.
It is.
It is. And I think that kind of goes in line with our topic today of unique selling proposition and just how the focus of what you're offering to people allows you to really hit the ground running, stay focused, and move onward and upward.
Couldn't agree more. This is right. So with this much activity, this many shows, we are, the proposals that we're being asked to provide, they are flying out the door, and inevitably, there's comparisons between our offering and what someone else's offering is. And it comes down to, so I think the timing is great. Why us, right? What's so unique about why they're going to pick us? So we're telling that story a lot right now. And there's some cool new things we've done in the last year that we think help us tell that story. So this is a really, I think for everybody, a great timely topic.
Yeah, let's get into it. So unique selling proposition. So I'll give a little bit of background and history here with a cool little story. So Claude Hopkins, I'm forgetting the name of the book that he wrote, but The Science of Advertising or something along those lines. Dr. Claude Hopkins, the grandfather of marketing, so to speak, came up with a unique selling proposition. And basically, the unique selling proposition is why someone buys from you other than price. The lowest cost provider is not a reason to have a USP. That's like Walmart's USP to be the lowest cost provider, right? And in fact, sometimes your USP could be we are reassuringly expensive. The price being so high is why people chose you, because they think that there's some luxury.
That's the best.
Involved.
You're the best. Somehow, you're the best.
Yeah.
No, it's right. I always tell my, it's what's your special sauce, right? What is the thing that makes people like your taste more than the other? Who was it? Was that I can't remember. Was that Burger King or McDonald's with the special sauce? Right. But they, that was
Burger King is have it your way.
It's ketchup and mayonnaise. It's ketchup and mayonnaise, right? But it call it special sauce. You can charge more. So no, it's we all have that thing that we know differentiates us from the competition. And to your point, that's what your USP is. It's the thing that makes your product and service stand out from the competitive alternatives. And you need to know that, and you need to be able to tell that story, especially in this day and age where people are just bombarded with information and options, right? So
absolutely. Well, and I think it's not that your USP, not necessarily going to be the only one that does it, right? But there's a few things. You can be the first one to say it, that you are focused on it. You can be the only one who really emphasizes it in your messaging so that it feels like you're the only one who does it. Or you can just do it the best and emphasize that you do it better than anybody else who also is focused on that. So being clear that you have a focus and then really emphasizing and showing that you are the best at it is huge. And if you're the first one to say it, it makes a huge difference. And, Claude Hopkins worked for Schlitz Beer. I don't know. I've never personally drank a Schlitz beer. I'm not sure if they're even in business still, but I know they existed back in the day. Have you ever had a Schlitz beer?
When I was the ripe young age of 16 or 17, it was the time the fake IDs came in. We were sneaking Schlitz beers from my, friend's dad. My dad was not really a beer drinker. So, but yes, Schlitz
Okay.
was
Schlitz was
it
big.
was a big brand back in the day.
So he did a big campaign for them where he talked about how Schlitz beer was the cleanest or the purest, I can't remember, cleanest beer that you can drink. And that, I mean, people thought that. They thought that it was so pure the way that they went through their process. And that's what he explained in the campaign. He talked about their process and how the hops were cleaned better than anybody else. And it was, the triple filtered or whatever to explain why Schlitz beer was so pure in that campaign. And then everybody started believing it and it tremendously increased their sales. That was their unique selling proposition. The reality is every other beer company in America was doing the exact same process to make basically the same kind of Pilsner beer. And
Yeah. Interesting.
because they were the first ones to focus on that, to say that they were the cleanest, because they were the first one to talk about the process in depth, everyone believed them, even though everyone else did it. It's the same thing we were talking earlier before this, that, Michelob is known as like
Mick
the
Ultra. Yeah.
Mick Ultra. They're like they have the people that are working out and drinking beer in their ads, right? And it's like, we're low
Their
calorie.
claim, when they exploded on the market with that product, this is absolutely the lowest lowest carb beer product on the market, bar none. And they made you believe it was healthy to drink this beer. And the fact is, as you and I were just talking off mic, Miller Lite is one carb less. Excuse me, one carb more. So Mick Ultra is one carb less than the other guys. And is that really going to make a big difference in your diet planning or consumption, or if you happen to like the taste of Miller a little bit better? But kudos to those guys for really, branding themselves that
Yep.
they made that their USP, no question about it, and have sold millions and millions of units
I
every
would
year.
venture to say billions at a certain point. But
There you go.
some other good USPs, some of the things that you can think about. You can focus on something that matters to the customer with your USP. That's really important, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But an example of that here, I'm in Oklahoma City for listeners, and I will see there's a gas station called OnQ. I see their billboards all over the metro area, and they say cleanest restrooms in Oklahoma City. And so that's their USP. And they are very clean restrooms. They're very nice and pleasant to walk into. And they just know that that matters to the customer. When you're getting gas and you need to use the restroom, you don't want to have to go in, ask for the key to go around back to the closet that the homeless guy lives in that happens to have a toilet. No, you walk in, everything's really nice and clean. You can get in and out. There's always a stall available, et cetera, et cetera. Another one that I've heard about, I don't know this one, but billboard for a gas station that said sexiest cashiers on the billboard. That's all it said, and had the gas station logo. And then you stop and you go in, and it's just some Indian guys running the gas station cashier, but they got people to come in because they had this USP that
How
is,
funny is that?
yeah, sexiest cashiers. Anyway, so those are some examples. That's what it
Yeah.
is, but we can probably get more specific. I want to talk a little bit about, well, maybe we can end with that. We'll talk about the Crew XP USP as well and talk about how you got into that. Let's talk about the steps really fast. Um, what do you think are the first things that you should look at when you're talking about developing a USP for your company?
I think that's a great question. I think you really, and we've done this well the last couple of years. I think you really have to dive into who your ideal customers are. You have to understand who that customer is. And for us, there's three profiles. Um, so once you know that, it's easier to start to understand what your customer needs and then aligning those resources to deliver to that audience. So for example, we moved away. So part of our USP is no brand direct projects. We are not pursuing relationships with any exhibitor direct anymore. There was a time, 20, 30 years ago, we did. But what I can tell you, that's so one is there's that. Two, let us move a facility to the very front lines of the busiest convention cities in North America. We chose Las Vegas and Orlando, from which we can reach 10 other high traffic convention areas with a 1 day's truck ride, right? So we know we can deploy to a dozen cities very quickly if we're building in Las Vegas, in Orlando. So, three, we made an enormous investment in the high frequency exhibit components that we know those partners need: pre engineered aluminum frames, custom counters, sexy reception desks, lots of lighting and accessories. And then we staffed it with carpenters that can make those things quickly or modify standard looking products very quickly. And then we signed our own union contracts. So we don't outsource that really critical component to get the solution to the floor. It's our guys. And we're able to bundle all those really critical components. Why? Because we think we can deliver them more of a hassle-free experience than if you're piecemealing all those things some other way. We also think it's going to save money. We know it'll save money because you may have a 25-mile round trip delivery when you when a partner gives us a turnkey rental project, not a 4,500 cross country round trip journey. And if you know what the costs of freight and gas and the driver and trailer shortage and the impact of all that stuff, this makes us a safer bet. And I think safe and dependable, that's a big part of what our USP has become with the partners that know us. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
we've thought about all that, Khalil.
yeah, so obviously this doesn't necessarily it's not like it's not like you can point to, "Man, Chris, do you remember that meeting on November 3rd of 1999 where we sat down and we figured it out? We had it all planned out. This is
Yeah, yeah,
exactly what we're gonna do." That's not it comes from experience, it comes from time. Your USP will evolve as the market evolves, as your audience evolves, as your
well,
abilities and capabilities evolve as well. But it's something that you should think about and know very quickly. And I like with all the things that you've done over the years to make decisions that get you to the place where you have this USP of being built for partnerships, specifically in the Las Vegas and Orlando area. It allows you to be so focused on it, and it allows people to feel like, oh, if I want a long-term partner that's going to help me in those spaces, I need to go with Crew XP. If this is something
yeah.
where I'm going to have events in these places frequently, they're the go-to. Um, and so,
Sorry to jump, but to your point, there's a lot of companies, Khalil, in my space that have facilities in Las Vegas, as an example, the busiest city in North America. They do that to service their customers, right? So they may store and house their customers' exhibits there because their customers there a lot, but they're not structured to serve other exhibit houses and agencies in the way that we are. They're not structured with staff. Their processes are. One of the things I've learned is when we made that commitment to go all into the trade, it changed our processes. It changed the products that we stocked in the inventory. It changed the facility and layout. The talent that we hired, the way we behave. There are some great companies that serve the trade. Um, there aren't a lot of great companies that have put the whole package together, forward deployed the way we have. It's a serious expense to do that. So, and I know that because the partners that we have are super grateful, and the ones that call us desperately in the 11th hour can't find anybody else that can make that offering. So it's been an interesting, really to learn how unique we really are. But I did want to we were talking earlier offline about what does a USP look like in the trade, in the exhibit and experiential agency space. There's a lot of things people choose to emphasize and amplify as their USP. Creativity is a lot of, we're more creative than the other guys. And it really becomes a contest of, on pitch day, we're going to show you our stuff and you're going to look at their stuff and we're going to tell you the stories about our 5 things that we show you. And, hopefully, they're influencing that way. I know, there's one company that goes, we use 100% sustainable products when we build something. That's important to a certain type of a buyer. Um, we have build cities and, forward deployed in the busiest cities where your clients are most often doing business. That's a claim that we make. I know people who go, we are Jimmy John's, man. We are freakishly fast. We'll build it faster than anybody. Well, I'm not sure building fast is, the right way to choose somebody. But if you are a corporate procrastinator and you're constantly waiting, CES show I told you is going on, biggest show of the year in the U.S., biggest show for any exhibitor there, I'm sure that they do. And we literally will get people that will call us 2.5 weeks before move-in starts, wanting to talk about building something for them. And you go, okay, so and we've become better at saying we're not going to be your best option because we know the shortcuts and the things we have to skip in order to make that test, and you're not going to be happy, and we won't be happy if you're not happy. So there's that. I know several that have come out and they promote, we will give you a guaranteed not to exceed price. So we all know about the variables that we have little to no direct control over that can impact your costs, your show services bill, which can be a moving target on any given show. So to guarantee not to exceed a price, I haven't called them, but if you drill down, I'm sure you have to follow their process for them to honor that. And I'm sure it's not, hey, you only got 2 weeks to build it, and I want every champagne taste on a beer budget. So anyway, that's typically those are some of the things, Khalil, we see industry people, our industry people use to build their USP around.
And so I think by nature with a USP, you're also when you're looking at your audience, you're thinking about, okay, who am I selling to? What are their needs? What are their pain points? What gets them excited? How can I speak their language? When you're thinking about that audience, if you're being too broad with that audience, you're not really going to be able to nail anything down that's meaningful to that audience. And so you're going to have to sacrifice people, like for Crew XP, by being built for partnerships and by saying no to brand side customers, you're limiting your audience and you are sacrificing customers, sacrificing projects, sacrificing revenue by doing that. But
Yes.
you're also saying yes to so many great opportunities that can, in your case, was a business decision for long-term growth and sustainability.
I'm smiling because you and I shot a week ago an episode called Grow with No. And it really, and if you're a small business owner or you've made a shift in your business model or offering the last 3 years post pandemic, it's a very scary and courageous thing to say no to certain business, especially, when you've got some overhead and you've got to pay the bills and you want revenue. But when we were all in on trade only business, um, no exceptions, right? We're dismantle anything we did to pursue or accept brand side business, and it still comes in our nets, and we refer that out. And if we don't have a good person we can refer to, we just say sorry, we don't do that anymore. Um, but man, to your point a minute ago, Khalil, once you narrow that focus, what happens is the speed and the velocity which you pick up because you're so clear on who your audience is and what your offering is. Um, all I can tell you is if you're good at it, it just works out. Your dance card still gets filled. You get the reputation for being um, these guys, not those guys, right? And it's been wonderful. And once you make that leap, and you're just all in. Oh wait, it's so much easier to tell your story on what your USP is when you're true to it and you're not sort of pretending or just sort of, peripherally you're still doing this other stuff. Yeah, and granted, if you're a brand new startup, man, I know how hard that would be to do because your number one priority is you go, I got to hire two project managers and I got to get into a space because I'm either working for home or I'm in an executive suite or whatever. And you need money to do that. And so the pressure to take on anything that comes in the door is there. And I'm just saying from experience, you will have more fun and enjoy success quicker if you really decide who you are and commit to that, and then use your creativity to develop the strategy in maybe a narrower lane, but just you can be then you can also be known for your USP because it's much truer. So yeah, I you're right. Growing with no is not a negative. It's absolutely a positive.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened to that episode, it's the one right before this. So you're listening to USP, go listen to Grow with No because they go hand in hand. But just like you have to know your audience, you've got to know your strengths because you've got to be able to deliver, like you said. And so think about, what do you do best? What do your customers always talk about? What do they rave about? Where are they, like when they leave a review on your business? What are they mentioning? Um, and maybe that's your team, maybe that's your processes, maybe that's how you deliver, maybe that's how you communicate, whatever it is. Listen to those things, know your strengths, and then double down on them. I think for a lot of people, they'll look at the competition and they'll feel like they have to benchmark and follow what their competitors are doing. And that goes in a lot of things. It's how their competitors market, what channels they're on. It's how what their offering is. It's what their pricing is. And I was just talking to someone about this the other day. Your competitors do not have your best interests in mind. And likely, if you're benchmarking and just following their lead, you're always going to be behind because what you're seeing on their website, what you're seeing in their proposals, what you're seeing at their shows is what they worked on 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. And so you're at best, if you're benchmarking, you're going to be your competitor 2 years ago. And so
Yeah.
you have to think differently. You've got to position yourself differently. So focus on your audience, not your competitors, and then understand what your strengths are. And that where those intersect, that's what you should be focused on, right? That's where you can start crafting your message. That's when you can start developing that USP.
You can't go wrong if your true north compass in business is following what your customer says, what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, being belly to belly with the customer, it's you can look at what your competitors doing, you can read what the pundits are saying, industry trends are, but your best indicator of where to point your business is by listening to your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as we kind of wrap up here with the USP, I think that if you're going to be successful, you've got to incorporate your USP really across the board. It's not just in this one little proposal deck that we have that we share with
Right.
people on sales calls. It's got to be incorporated into your team. Everyone on the team has to know it, right? How are you incorporating built for partnerships across the board at CrewXP?
Our monthly all staff meetings, we talk about who we are, who our customer is, who are ideal customers. It's big exhibit houses that use us for overflow. It's small and mid-size that don't have back rooms and inventory, and maybe they're in secondary markets, but they want to be competitive and serve clients in the major markets like, Vegas and Miami and Atlanta and Orlando. And it's experiential agencies that all they do is strategic and creative, and they don't build anything. And and we've always had a relationship with that audience. So once we're constantly communicating. The other thing that we're doing, Khalil, is we have sort of an internal language of, you know, we have key account partners, we have growth partners, we have what we call foundation partners. There's criteria for each one, but the staff here, even the pull and prep teams on the floor, if they hear a name and they go, "Oh, these guys are, that's a growth partner," they know. Well, what does that mean? It means they're growing with us in high double digits every year, something has happened where there's been a breakthrough in the relationship. Maybe they're not using us just for labor help anymore. Maybe they're having us do turnkey builds for them. Maybe they're using us in new cities. Maybe they've discovered us as doing some small general contracting work, which we do, or brand activations, right? We talked about that. That's really that's like an event, a customer event that's not happening in the trade show space, but it's a lot of the same components. Anyway, I find talking to the staff, visually showing them the successes of the projects. When they see us out at Art Basel, one of the biggest art shows in the world, on the beach in Miami, and Jacob Dylan and the Wallflowers is playing on a stage we built in front of 50 feet of aluminum frame walls that we provided. They go, "Oh my God, check that out!" Right? We did that, and you go, "Yeah, well, they feel great about it." So, we find it, making sure they understand and seeing what it is we do. We just talk about it a lot. That's helped internalize this group going, we're really part of something special or different. They're proud, and they go home and talk about it. It's the big joke, and I know our listeners will get this. Those of us who've been in this industry for decades, Khalil, our families still don't understand what we do. My daughter goes, he kind of builds, did you ever play with Legos when you were a kid? Like, they're big Legos, and there's like erector sets, and so your dad's in construction? No, he's not really in that. Yeah, he kind of is. Well, he's in Vegas a lot. He is. He's in, what's he do in Vegas? Well, there's like, what trade show is? Yeah, there's trade shows. Anyway, they just dance around, and show pictures, video, tell the story, make sure your loved ones and your coworkers can brag about what you do, because it is such a cool industry. And if you're listening to this, I know you're in the industry and you get it, and that, and you're laughing because it's a struggle to communicate to other people what we do sometimes.
Well, fun little episode here. I hope
Yeah.
that people are encouraged to, even if they didn't know what a USP is, go out, do a little more research, think about your marketing, stop just talking about what you do and start talking about what you want to be known for. Start talking about what makes you different. And then for people who already knew about USP, maybe it's a little bit more about integrating it into your team, into not just your sales and marketing, but even into your production processes, talking about your USP with the rest of your crew so that you know exactly what you're doing, and it's even more shared by your company. So thanks for talking, Chris. We have, for listeners, go subscribe to us on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Follow us on LinkedIn as well. Get our the Crew XP newsletter, if you'd like to, is going out regularly. You can subscribe to that on the website, crewxp.com. More in the show notes down there. And lastly, we've got another great episode coming up soon, all about sales and production harmony, aligning those. So would love to have you guys listen. But thanks for being a part of our audience. We will see you on the next one. Thanks
Khalil. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Experience Builders Podcast. Check out our website in the show notes or visit crewxp.com to learn more.